Imagine closing up for the night, only to find an unexpected guest locked in a cage. Picture this, our story begins in the heart of Springfield, Illinois, with our protagonist, a diligent, passionate zookeeper. Let's call her Jane. Jane's love for her work goes beyond the usual 9 to 5. She's the last one out, ensuring the well-being of her animal friends, long after the last visitor has left. Usually, her post-closing tasks are predictable, a routine she's perfected over the years, checking locks, making sure all the animals are accounted for, and ensuring their comfort for the night. But on this particular evening, Jane's routine took an unexpected and chilling turn. As she made her rounds, a strange noise caught her attention. It was a low growl, unlike any sound she'd heard from her usual charges. Following the sound, she found herself in front of a cage that was supposed to be empty. Her heart pounded in her chest as her flashlight beam revealed a creature she'd only seen in movies and read about in folklore. A werewolf, its eyes gleaming in the dark, was locked in the cage. This was no ordinary discovery. Jane had seen many animals in her career, but a werewolf was certainly not one of them. Startled, bewildered, she stood frozen in disbelief. The creature, with its sharp claws and piercing eyes, was unlike anything she'd ever seen. The reality of her discovery began to sink in. She was standing face to face with a creature of legend, a being that was supposed to be confined to the pages of supernatural fiction. She was filled with a mix of fear and fascination, her mind racing to comprehend the unusual sight before her. And so begins a night that our zookeeper will never forget. The discovery of a werewolf in her zoo was the first step into an evening of mystery and intrigue, an evening that would challenge everything she thought she knew about her world. Stay tuned because the night is only beginning. Our zookeeper, though startled, did not run away. Instead, she decided to investigate. Her heart pounded in her chest like a drum, echoing the rhythm of the unknown. With every step she took towards the cage, the air seemed to grow colder, the silence louder. But her determination overpowered her fear. She then found herself standing in front of the cage, staring at the creature that lay within. It was unlike anything she had ever seen, a bizarre blend of beast and man. Its muscular form was covered in coarse silver fur that shimmered under the moonlight, but it was its eyes that truly captivated her. They were human-like, filled with a raw, primal fear that mirrored her own. The werewolf was as afraid of her as she was of it. This realization sparked a strange sense of empathy within her. She was a zookeeper after all, her life devoted to understanding and caring for animals. And at that moment, she saw the werewolf not as a monster, but as a creature in distress. She began to observe the werewolf more closely, taking in its every detail, its ragged breathing, the way its eyes darted around, the way it flinched at her every movement. It was clear that the creature was terrified, trapped in a world it didn't understand. This sparked in her a strange mix of fear and curiosity. Fear for the unknown, curiosity for the creature's origins, and its story. The werewolf, seeing her calm demeanor, seemed to relax slightly. It was still wary, still afraid, but it was less aggressive, less wild. It was as though it recognized her intentions, her desire to help. And so, despite the danger, despite the uncertainty, she made a decision. She would not abandon this creature. She would not let fear dictate her actions. She would stay, she would observe, she would understand. Because that was who she was. That was what she believed in. Despite her fear, our zookeeper felt a strange pull towards this creature, a need to understand and help. As the moonlight bathed the creature, something extraordinary happened. Our story takes an unexpected turn as the werewolf, once a menacing figure full of raw power and primal fear, began to transform. The moon high in the night sky cast its silvery glow over the creature, initiating a process as old as time itself. The transformation was not instantaneous, rather it was a slow, agonizing process. The werewolf's massive form began to shrink, its fur retreating back into its skin. Its snarling muzzle shortened, and the fierce, predatory eyes softened. The formidable paws, once tipped with lethal claws, reshaped into human hands. As the transformation continued, the werewolf's growls of pain began to morph into human groans. Its hunched posture straightened, and its body started to resemble that of a man. The creature's size continued to diminish until it was no larger than an average human. Its fur was completely gone now, replaced by human skin. The transformation was complete. The zookeeper, who had been watching the spectacle from a safe distance, was left in awe. The sight was both wondrous and terrifying. She had heard tales of these creatures, of course, mythical beings that could change their form with the moon's cycle, but to witness it firsthand was something else entirely. Disbelief washed over her, but the evidence was right there in front of her. The cage that once held a fearsome beast now contained a man. The transformation had been so complete, so thorough, that if she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she would have never believed it. The zookeeper stood there, staring at the man in the cage, her mind reeling with questions. Who was he? How did he end up in the zoo? And most importantly, how was she going to handle this situation? In front of her very eyes, the ferocious beast had turned into a man. And with that, the zookeeper realized that she was no longer dealing with a simple animal. She was dealing with a human, a man with a curse as old as the moon itself. The man in the cage, confused and afraid, had an incredible story to share. His voice, shaky at first, gained strength as he delved into his tale, a narrative so unbelievable that it could only be true. He was, of all things, a werewolf. Not the kind you see in old horror films, with a thirst for blood and destruction. No, his affliction was more of a curse, an uncontrollable transformation that occurred every full moon, turning him from man to beast and back again. He revealed his secret with a sense of resignation, as if he had been carrying this burden for a long time, waiting for the day when he could finally share it with someone who wouldn't run away in fear. He explained how he had locked himself up in the cage for safety, not just for himself, but for others too. He spoke of how he had lost his key in the midst of his transformation, trapping himself in the cage he had hoped would be his salvation. The zookeeper, far from being appalled, listened to his story with an empathetic ear. She saw not a monster, but a man burdened with a condition he had no control over. She recognized his fear, his loneliness, and his desperation, and in that moment, she made a decision. She pledged to help him. She would find a way to break the curse, or at least help him manage it. She promised to keep his secret, to provide him with a safe space during his transformations, and to stand by him in his moments of vulnerability. Her words, sincere and heartfelt, seemed to lift a weight off his shoulders. For the first time in a long time, he felt seen, understood, and accepted for who he was, not what he became during the full moon. And so, a bond was formed between the zookeeper and the man, a bond born out of understanding and compassion. The night had passed, leaving behind a tale that would forever change our zookeeper's life. As dawn broke, the werewolf had transformed back into a man. Our zookeeper, despite the initial shock and fear, found herself filled with compassion. She had witnessed firsthand the pain of the transformation, the struggle of the man to control the beast within. She knew she couldn't leave him to face this alone. In the days that followed, she became his confidant, helping him manage his condition. She arranged a safe place for him during the full moon nights, ensuring he was locked in a secure cage, away from the public and himself. It was a strange yet touching bond that developed between them, one of trust and mutual respect. News of this extraordinary tale spread like wildfire throughout Springfield. Whispers of the werewolf of the Springfield Zoo could be heard in every corner of the town. Rather than driving people away, the peculiar tale sparked curiosity among the locals and visitors alike. The zoo, overnight, became a hot spot of intrigue and excitement. Curious crowds flocked to the zoo, hoping to catch a glimpse of the infamous werewolf. The zookeeper, however, ensured the man's privacy was respected. The zoo's popularity skyrocketed, but not at the expense of the man's dignity or safety. In this peculiar journey, the zookeeper found a new purpose. She became not only the caretaker of animals, but also a guardian to a man burdened with a supernatural condition. The zoo, too, transformed from a simple local attraction to a place of wonder and mystery, a beacon of acceptance and understanding. In the end, what started as an ordinary night turned into an extraordinary journey, forever linking the lives of a zookeeper and a werewolf in the small town of Springfield, Illinois.